Well, good morning, everybody. This morning, the topic is weakening, semivowels, and compression. We're going to deal with a number of processes affecting vowels in English. Now, the naive view of English vowels is that we have a list of 20 or so vowels and diphthongs, and that's that. The sophisticated view is that we have more than one vowel system. We have that big vowel system that applies in stressed syllables, and we have another vowel system, a much smaller vowel system, that applies in certain kinds of unstressed syllables that we call weak syllables. So what I'm going to do today, to start with, is to demonstrate the usefulness of distinguishing between strong vowels and weak vowels, and to discuss what the nature of this weak vowel system might be. So, first of all, let's look at certain pairs of words in English which demonstrate, as I'm sure you're familiar, the alternations that we can often observe between one vowel and another. When we take related words and we attach various suffixes, the result may be that the stress shifts around. So we can compare the adjective anatomic with the noun anatomy. And you notice that although clearly they're based on the same morpheme, the same stem, we get different vowel qualities. We get a at the beginning of anatomic, but at the beginning of anatomy. In the second syllable we get in anatomic, and a in anatomy. In the third syllable we have in anatomic, but in anatomy. Similarly, if we compare democratic and democracy, again you observe the same kind of alternation. The effects of the ic suffix causes stress to be in different places, and that causes different vowel qualities. De becomes di, mo becomes m, crack becomes cr, as we switch from one to the other. Here are some more examples of the same phenomenon. Combine, combination. Quite a dramatic change from I in combine to in combination. And also in the first syllable, o in combination, but in combine. This is the effect of the secondary stress on the initial syllable of combination, which is not there in combine. Same sort of thing down at the bottom in acclaim, with initial but acclamation with initial a. And the a in acclaim switches to in acclamation. And then again in refer, reference. Hundreds of these, you really don't need to copy them all down, but there are some more examples. Repeat, but repetition. To record, but for now a record. Notice the effect of causing the stress to come on the first syllable, changes from I to e, record. We can say that e then is the strong vowel and I is the weak vowel derived from it in the verb to record. Phonetics, phonetition. Now there's an interesting one because speakers are not altogether in agreement. What is the strong vowel? In phonetition, some people say phonetician. So we're divided. Some treat the strong vowel as O, as I do, phonetician. Others take it as O, phonetician. But of course it weakens to O, whichever it is. And another one that you've got on your handout, there's some pictures for it, preside and president. In the verb we've got I in preside. Now we got a president. Well, you can see that this is good evidence, therefore, for recognizing weak vowels which are in some sense derived from strong vowels. And I would argue that certain stress effects protect vowels from being weakened, like, for example, being stressed or having been stressed sometimes at some point in a derivation protects a vowel from being weakened. If it's not so protected, then it weakens, or it tends to weaken. We've got interesting evidence too in the case of variant pronunciations. The days of the week, for example, we have a choice whether or not to weaken the day suffix. We can either keep it strong and say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or we can weaken it, giving Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And for many speakers, both pronunciations are available. I think I would usually weaken it, but if it's at the end of a sentence, particularly, for example, when you're slowing down, then it might be more likely to be strong. So I say Monday morning, but I'll do it on Monday. Monday morning, weakened in context, but I'll do it on Monday. End of sentence. Similarly, some of the months, we can say either September or September, we could say November or November. Now, rather than saying that we have a sort of random fluctuation in these words, we capture what's going on very simply by saying we have a choice whether to use a strong vowel or whether to weaken it. And in some circumstances we can weaken it. The same is true, in fact, of a number of other cases where we get differences between speakers rather than within the same speaker. So, for example, if we take the word spelt like this, I call this a mascot, but there are people who call it a mascot. Now, right, this is spelling pronunciation, this is the influence of the spelling, but either way around, it ends up to say you can have a strong mascot or a weak mascot. Again, it's an alternation between a strong vowel and the corresponding weak vowel. Most noticeably, of course, we have this in the case of the function words, the words that have weak forms. And everybody who does English phonetics is taught about these function words where we have a strong form using a strong vowel, used when the word is stressed or in certain other circumstances, can, and a weak form using a weak vowel, which is used in most circumstances when it's unstressed. Again, it's helpful to think of these words as basically having their strong form, which is then weakened if there's nothing to cause the strong form to be used. Of weakens to of, cup of tea, them weakens to them. I just read them. So all of these phenomena argue that we have in English a weak vowel system which consists precisely of those vowels that can result from weakening. Most obviously the schwa, which has no other source than as the result of weakening, but also certain other